Well, we've gone from no topics to two topics about radio mics now. I did that review of that pretty horrid fake Shure that wasn't digital and wasn't even particularly good quality. But when I did the video, I explained a little bit about radio mics and things like that. And one of the things that someone just emailed me about was that they didn't understand one bit. And what I sort of said was, the most expensive radio mic system is nearly as good as a £10 XLR to XLR cable. And he asked me to explain what I meant. Well, what it is that the most pure signal path from source to destination involves no amplification, involves no distortion being added, involves no time delay being added. And realistically, the minute you go to a wireless system, then you've got to introduce those things. With the best systems, especially digital systems as they are now, quite popular, there will be latency, and everybody who's doing home recording, studio recording, any sort of music knows that latency exists. And usually it's so short that you can't really hear it. It's there, but it doesn't get in the way. And oddly, a little bit of delay with digital radio mics actually gives you a little bit of immunity from feedback. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. The ones that I tend to use on stage now are digital. And what actually happens is that you used to turn the volume up and you'd start to hear that slight ring, like a sort of hollow sound that told you were very near to feedback. And digital systems, because of the latency, don't tend to do that anywhere near as much. So you push the volume and push the volume, push the volume, and then suddenly all hell breaks loose. You don't get that warning as you used to with analog systems. But the delay doesn't seem to affect sort of our perception of quality, but certainly noise, interference, distortion that's created somewhere in the chain, all those things mean that if you have a microphone with a cable, the chances are the cable one will sound better. So I thought, to try and answer that a bit more accurately, I'll grab some radio mics and non-radio mics with the same capsule. So I've started here with a couple of Sennheisers, and I've got an 865 condenser as a cable version, and I've got an 865 capsule on a radio version, and it's analog radio. So what we're going to do is record both of these signals. Let's go to them now. So at the moment you're on the Sennheiser 865 and you're going via the radio system. So I'm using my old trick of having us at a distance, and we're that sort of distance away. So you can hear the tone. Having them at a distance also means you need a bit more gain because I'm further away. So you should be able to hear the same preamp in this Zoom recorder, which I do quite like. They are quite low noise. But the Zoom recorder is having to work a bit harder on the handheld because it's further away, so the signal level is lower. The radio mic output is higher, so it doesn't have to work quite so hard on that. So what you should hear, if I shut up now, is the background noise. Now in this room here, I can hear a fan, and I can hear a slight hum from a piece of kit that's over here. So that's the silence as the radio mic hears it. So let's switch across to the cabled version. We're on the cabled version now. I think I can detect a tiny tonal shift. It's sort of like a smidge on the EQ knob. There is a difference. I mean, they're the same capsule, but one is connected just via the cable and the other one is going through all that processing. Now, just to make sure you get what the processing is radio systems, analog ones, because of the fact that when the signal strength gets a bit low, they start to get a bit hissy, they cheat a bit. So what they do is they actually compress the audio that the microphone transmits. Then it's transmitted to the receiver. At the receiver, the opposite. There's expansion applied to pull the dynamic range back to where it was. And if you do that, you end up with a slightly lower noise floor. So it's a bit of a trick. And really what it means is the sort of slope of the compressor is mirrored on the expander at the other end. So you shouldn't really hear it. I think that's one of the reasons why when people say that you mustn't use brand X radio mic transmitter with brand Y radio mic receiver, even if they're on the same frequency, sometimes you get odd results. I actually quite like it in some cases. I was quite a fan of the Sennheiser transmitters being received on the Trantec receivers I had in a rack. And it was because those two things were mismatched slightly. So it sort of added a little bit of very gentle compression, and I quite like that. But there we go. Let's do the shut up test. So that's the silence on the 865, the cabled version. So we've been flipping about between the two. Could you tell? All the bit that you've just heard, we chopped it up and you've heard both mics. Maybe you heard a difference. Maybe you heard a difference. You could say, yeah, definitely that was the cable, or definitely that was the radio. I don't know. It's up to your ears. Well, what do you think? Could you tell the difference? Is there a difference for your ears? If there is a difference, is it a good enough difference that you'd want to use one over the other? For me, a cable means you don't have to worry about batteries. And I think in all the years that I've looked after radio systems, batteries are the killer. Or even worse, switches that turn them on and off that people forget to use. I think the worst thing in the world is handing somebody a microphone. They walk out on stage and they hold it to their mouth and there's silence. Which is why most of my handheld microphones with cables don't have switches on. I hate them. If it's got a switch on, tape it up. It's just such an embarrassment when you get someone, especially someone who's famous or someone who's famous and a bit grumpy. Because if you give them a microphone that doesn't work, there is nothing you can do when they're out there. Well, nothing that doesn't make you look really stupid. See you on the next video. Look after yourselves. Take care.